101.1 Smart FM Makassar, KG Radio Network. Good evening, smart listener. Welcome to Smart Up Your Life. Grab your confidence in speaking English with me, Riva Majid, and also some friends from BPEC Makassar. Hi guys.
Hello.
Apa kabar?
Good.
And also you.
Very well.
Okay. we have two newcomer here. Actually they're not the newcomer, but saya baru melihat kalian berdua hadir di sini malam ini dan so happy to see you. Well, sebelum kita melanjutkan topik kita malam hari ini di Smart Up Your Life, may you introduce yourself guys to smart listener and also to our friends, because tonight is the special night. Because we are doing live from two different countries, which is here in Makassar, Indonesia, and also from Belgium. We have another guest host over there, connected to us from Zoom, ya. Dari aplikasi Zoom kita terhubung langsung bersama teman kita di Belgia, tapi nanti akan kita perkenalkan ya. Tapi sebelum itu kita perkenalan dulu dong teman-teman yang ada di studio Smart FM Makassar pada malam hari ini. Yes, please.
Hello guys, I am Fikri, and also I am one of committees in BPS Makassar, which is BP Benteng Panjua English Club.
Okay, well, beside Fikri.
Okay, thank you for the chance given to me. My name is Muhammad Said, and then I'm one of the ex-committee actually in BPEC Makassar, and then actually I'm very glad, because tonight I'm joining in this discussion. Thank you.
Okay, well, the last one.
Okay, so I'm Fudin.
Okay.
And I'm a graduate of University in Unismu, and a member of BPCs as well.
Okay, ex-committee or you are still a member of BPC Makassar right now?
Both, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, guys, say hi to our friends. Actually, this is the senior announcer or ex-announcer from Smart FM Makassar. Ini senior Riva, dulu dia pernah berada di Smart FM, dan kita say hi dulu ke teman-teman yang ada di Belgia. She's our guest host tonight. There, she is my sister Rosa Sahetapy. Hai Kak Ros.
Halo, selamat malam ya di Indonesia, di Makassar.
Ya, di Makassar sekarang jam 7 malam. Di Belgia jam berapa Kak Ros?
Sekarang siang, kita jam 12 siang di sini.
Oh, berarti ada perbedaan ya 7 jam gitu ya perbedaan waktu kita.
Ya, 7
Oke.
jam.
Kalau di Belgia sekarang lagi apa? Winter ya, Kak?
Ini sekarang lagi musim gugur,
Oh,
nanti
oke.
sekitar akhir November masuk Desember baru masuk musim salju, kalau ada saljunya, musim dingin, winter.
Oke. Jadi masih musim gugur, on the way ke winter gitu ya, Kak Ros ya?
Ya,
Oke.
transisi.
Kak Ros, kita pengen tahu juga dong keadaan di Belgia sekarang seperti apa sih, especially pandemic COVID-19. Di sana sangat-sangat berdampak atau seperti apa sih?
Sayangnya sekarang ini Belgia hampir di semua kota besar maupun kecil itu sekarang zona merah. Yang tadinya cuma beberapa kota besar saja yang zona merah, sekarang sudah zona merah semua. Jadi kita menunggu keputusan dari pemerintah apakah nanti mungkin lockdown total seperti awal waktu pandemik ya, atau masih nunggu lagi beberapa bulan lihat perkembangan situasi selanjutnya.
So you work from home right now?
Excuse me?
You work from home right now?
You can say that because I normally do some art work at home. So I do painting, so I consider that is my work.
Oke,
Ya.
jadi normalnya memang kerja dari rumah setiap harinya ya Kak Ros ya?
Ya, dan juga study ya. Aku study di
Oke.
sekolah seni di sini. Ya.
Well, selain Kak Ros malam hari ini yang menjadi nanti Kak Ros akan menjadi host ya, menemani Riva. Jadi bukan hanya Riva sendiri, Riva host yang ada di Makassar, Kak Ros yang akan membantu memandu perbincangan kita malam hari ini. Celebrating Hari Sumpah Pemuda in Indonesia. Jadi bulan Oktober ini tepatnya besok, which is tomorrow, Oktober 28 itu adalah Hari Sumpah Pemuda. So that kita memilih the inspirational topic. And our topic tonight is being a modern day warrior, the fight against human trafficking. Well, talking about human trafficking, guys, Fikri, Said, and also Fudin, what's on your mind when you heard or when I say human trafficking? What's on your mind?
For me, I think it's illegal activity where someone try to take advantage of people. So in case that where children are being captured by another person, so these children could be potentially abused, like selling them to other countries or like making them involved in prostitution. So I think that this person become useless, I think, become less worth it because they have been abused in terms of being trafficked by other people.
Okay. What about you, Said?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think for me, I think for me it's seems like exploitation, sexual, and then
Sexual exploitation,
yeah,
right?
and then human trafficking is like sexual slavery, and of course, for me it's illegal actually.
And what about you, Fikri?
So, as far as I know, when I heard about human trafficking, I also think that that is very bad because I always listen to this word, but I don't know exactly the meaning of human trafficking. But in my opinion, human trafficking is that particular people or particular group tries to deceive the victims to get some interest from the victims itself. I think that's all.
Well, Kak Ros, my friends has delivered their opinion about human trafficking itself. But to know more about human trafficking globally, especially in Asia and also in Indonesia, sepertinya kita akan mendengarkan conversationnya, pembahasannya langsung bersama Kak Ros dan satu speaker tamu kita malam hari ini yang nanti juga akan langsung diperkenalkan ya sama Kak Ros. Siapakah kira-kira speaker kita malam hari ini, Kak Ros, yang akan membahas soal human trafficking?
Okay, thank you, Riva from Smartfm Makassar, Indonesia. I'm Rosa Sahetapy, hosting from Belgium, and with me now is Laura Jouveneau. Good afternoon, Laura.
Good afternoon.
It's a really pleasure for having you here with us. And
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we will talk about the topic that is kind of heavy. And human trafficking is a big subject, I think, and everybody has in their own mind what is that human trafficking. But what exactly human trafficking?
Human trafficking is a serious and grave violation of human rights. If we take the definition given by the United Nations, it is unfolded in three parts. It's first an act of recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or recipient of people. Second, by the use of threats or the use of force, the use of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, and vulnerability. And the third part is it's all being done in the purpose of exploiting the people, exploiting the person we are taking into the human trafficking. And so human trafficking and exploitation can be understood as sexual exploitation, prostitution, but also forced labor, slavery, child soldiers, and organ trafficking. So it's really broad, and it has different shapes and forms.
Yeah, because most of the people, also me before that, I think mostly human trafficking is only about sex worker or anything related with sexual things, but actually not. It's more than that, and it's even deeper than that. So after what you explained, actually there are three kinds of what considered as human trafficking. Now, who are the victims?
Well, that's the thing. There's there's not one type of victim. Everyone can be a victim. Children, men, women, everyone can be a victim. But what they do have in common is their vulnerability. It can be social vulnerability, it can be financial vulnerability, it can be someone who doesn't have attention, who's feeling lonely, and who is seeking for attention or love from someone else. And so there's not one form of perfect victim. Everyone can be a victim, and the traffickers are looking for that vulnerability, and they use that vulnerability against you.
Yes, because I see that most cases in Indonesia, human trafficking happen because of the matter of economical cause. Because the victims, like you said, especially those who lives in small villages, they need to help their family, and they need to earn money in order to support the financial of their family. And that's why that they will do anything. Girls and young men, they will do anything in order to help their families. And here come people who really do the human trafficking. And then, yeah, of course, they become the target, they become the victims. And also here I think that in Indonesia, a country like Indonesia, that the culture is really play the role of the people can be the target of become the victims of human trafficking. How you see that? How you see that the culture, especially countries like in Asia, really influence of the whole system of human trafficking?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I have the perfect answer. I know human trafficking exists in the whole world. It has different shapes and forms, like I said. I know some parts of the world have more sexual human trafficking. Some others may have more labor trafficking. But I think culture has a deep impact because it's within what people believe is allowed or accepted to do. I also believe like you said, with finances, some people don't see another opportunity than selling their kids or selling themselves, or they are tricked into believing there's a false job waiting for them somewhere in Europe. And they're like, oh yeah, let's do this. I'm going to follow that person. I believe there's a job there. And when they do arrive, there's no job. What really exists is prostitution or forced labor, and they are tricked into a vicious circle where they are not free anymore, and they have to repay the debt of being for the travel of being coming into Europe. And so I think culture has an impact on it, and in every country, every part of the world has different influences on that.
Yeah, because like in Europe, for example, in Italy, that I read a lot and heard a lot that how people, especially from Africa, they came to Europe in order to gain money, in order to have the better life, what you call, and then especially the girls, and then they arrive here in Italy, and then here they are. Immediately they have to do the job right, that those people who arrange human trafficking force them to do as a prostitution, and yeah, something like that. It's very sad.
It is.
Yes. What types of human trafficking normally in Europe and also in Asia are they same, like more labor or sexual?
So from what I know, in Europe, it's mostly sexual exploitation, so prostitution and forced labor. Both reach men and women, and they are really present. I know in Eastern Europe, there's a lot of labor trafficking, there's a lot of prostitution, but also in the Western Europe countries, that's present. I did some research about Asia because I'm not from there, so I don't know all the facts. But from what I've seen in Asia, from reports of the United Nations and other international organizations, Asia represents on its own 2/3 of the victims of human trafficking. with about 70% who are women and young girls under sexual exploitation and prostitution. And over the last 10 years, only 450 victims were detected in Indonesia as victims of human trafficking. So I think it's really present everywhere. I think in Asia it's mostly sexual, at least from what I've read. But yes, it's a big issue, and we're not talking enough about it. There is not enough actions who are being taken against it, and there's still so many people enslaved and waiting to be freed.
Yes. And is there some form of travel, transportation, or movement across when the activity of human trafficking in each of the countries?
Yes, for sure. So traffickers use the vulnerability, for example, of migrants for promising them job opportunities or a better life or something that they don't know couldn't exist. And so, for example, if I take the example of Europe, that happens a lot with African countries where we promise them, oh, there's an awesome waiter job for you waiting in a European country, or you can do something up there. But then when they arrive, there's nothing. And they fall into prostitution because they have to pay back the debt of travel. And also just within a country or within a state, region, there's a lot of trafficking and cross-country trafficking where we're displacing people from country to country. And that is a big issue also because that's a way of taking control over the person and making sure that no one who used to know that person can reach them and get them freed or get in touch with them.
Yes, when I do my research and I read about Makassar, because the radio Smartfm now we are linking is in location in Makassar, and I read about Makassar. And Makassar now is a big port city, something like Amsterdam. Yes, Rotterdam, I think in Holland. So here it's not only that people coming for the human trafficking activity, but it's also they send the people out of Makassar to other places, other cities in Indonesia in order to sell these children, women, men. So yeah, it's really, when I read that, because it's my hometown, it's like really breaking my heart and thinking that, wow, these young people that they got exploited in a certain ways. That's really sad. That is really horrible, I think.
Yes. And I think that's the saddest reality, is that it is actually everywhere. Before I knew about human trafficking, I never thought it was a reality in Belgium. I was like, no, like that's definitely something that doesn't happen here, but it does. It happens everywhere. We just have to be aware and look for the signs. And I think that's heartbreaking. It's that it is happening everywhere, even in more developed countries. That's not an excuse. It happens there too. And those modern countries are usually even way of connection, where they exchange people, or they're gonna send out people, like you said, border countries. They are gonna cross countries and send people out and displace them. And human trafficking is present everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now with the development of technology, we are living in a very modern technology with social media. Everybody use social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Do you think that somebody can be a victim only by using social media? Of this social media can be a platform for somebody to be a target?
Okay. Yes. And that's a big issue. Even more so now with COVID, it's a big issue because everyone, or in a lot of countries, people have to stay at home, have to quarantine. They're not seeing their friends anymore. They're being isolated. They're not going to school. Here in Belgium, students have to be at home. They are being homeschooled with internet. And so, children are being vulnerable. And it's easy to trick them into believing you're someone else. A21 showed a video during their global summit this year on that issue, on how it's easy to trick a child into believing you're someone their age and you're genuinely interested in them, but the profile you are actually creating and you're talking with is not a lovely young lady who's your age and who's interested in the same games as you. It's actually an older man who is behind that fake account and is asking you to send pictures in exchange of I don't know, higher levels or new tools into your game for you to go higher in the games. And it's easy. And that's the saddest part, is that traffickers are really, really, really creative. And so they are making every potential victim, they're studying their victims. They're studying how they're vulnerable, how they operate, and how they can lure them in human trafficking or in any weird thing that should not happen on children. And so I really believe that social media, internet, online games can be a way to get in contact with children and lure them into human trafficking.
Well, Kak Rose and Laura, this is the very interesting talk. And based on your conversation, we know that the human trafficking is a serious crime that happen in every countries, I think. And every year, thousands of men, women, and children fall into the hands of traffickers. And as what Laura said before, I conclude that the human trafficking itself, Kak Rose and Laura, getting worse because of the social media platform, digital platform that help the traffickers to do their crime. But well, we will continue this conversation. We will continue this talk about human trafficking. But Kak Rose and also Laura, smart listener, being a modern day warrior, the fight against human trafficking, and now we are connected to our friends from Belgium. There is Laura and also my sister Rosa Sahetapy still with you, and Kak Rose, my friends from BPC Makassar, aka BPC Squad, want to deliver their question to you and also to Laura.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay, but for human trafficking, I think you can address to Laura.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rosa. So I have a question for Mr. Laura. I wonder this frequently, that why people can be easily deceived by the trafficker of human trafficking, because I think if I were them, I would not be easily deceived by them, because I would check the legality of the company, the track record of the companies that so why do you think that people can be easily deceived by the trafficker of human trafficking, and then how do you think that the way that can at least decrease the number of human trafficking? That's all.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Okay, so I'm gonna start about the first part. So how do people fall into human trafficking? How did they get tricked in it? And how is it possible that they believe everything that is being said to them, basically, right? That's the question? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I think, like I said, that every victim is vulnerable. Every person who is being tricked into human trafficking is vulnerable from the start. And so the trafficker knows that the person is vulnerable, and they use that vulnerability against them. So let's take an example. If you take, for example, a young girl and she's at school and she has some friends, but she just changed school and she's all alone and she doesn't have any attention, and then some guy is gonna see that and he can use that against her and gonna be really nice to her at first and gonna pretend to be interested in her, and he can become her boyfriend, and she's gonna trust him, of course, and she's gonna wanting to please him and do whatever he wants, and that relationship is fast gonna shift from being a love story to something where he asks her to do something. He can say, I need money, can you do this for me? Or I'm taking you to a party, and then something is gonna happen and it's actually not a party that she thought it would be, but it can be a place of exploitation and prostitution. I think the trick is that the victim is believing the person who is trafficking them. That was the case of a young girl. But let's say there is a migrant who is desperate and who is dreaming of a better life, and they're stuck in Africa, for example, and they are, trying to avoid war. They're trying to save their lives. They're trying to save their family. And someone is offering them a better job in Europe. Someone is saying, oh, I know someone who knows someone who has a job for you in Europe where you could be waitering. That person wants to believe in that dream. That person wants to believe in that perfect future, in the hope that there is something better than what they actually do know right now. And so what they actually do know right now in Africa is horrible. And they're like, okay, I'm going to take a chance on that. I'm going to believe that there's something good for me. And so they go, they follow. And once they arrive in Europe, their identity has been taken because the traffickers take their passports and they force them into forced labor or into sex prostitution to repay the debt of having brought them from Africa to Europe. And so sometimes it's not about being stupid. It's just about the traffickers being really smart and using everything and anything against you. And that's why we have to talk about it. And that's why if you suspect something, you have to speak up, because sometimes, or maybe you can be right and you would have been the only hope for that person to be freed. You were the only one who saw the signs of something being weird. And it's better to speak up and be wrong than never speak up and have that person being enslaved for a very, very long time.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Laura. So, meaning that some of the victims itself, not because they are stupid, then they are deceived by the trafficker itself, but they are vulnerable people, so that they can easily deceived by the traffickers by giving them fake promise, right?
Yes, fake promises is
Wow.
usually how it starts.
Okay, we said in Indonesia, it's like a bucin.
Yeah.
Bucin. In Indonesia, we say that bucin, yeah, that very easy to be a victim of human trafficking, right? Well, Kak Ros, Miss Laura, we have many questions from YouTube channel Smartfm Makassar. And I will read the question in bahasa, so Kak Ros will deliver the question to Laura in English. And also, smart listener, if you want to join with us tonight, you can text us on WhatsApp 0811461011. And also you can write down your comment on our YouTube channel Smart FM Makassar. Well, the first question is come from Dian Mega Savitri. Okay, we have our Belgium friends join us tonight on YouTube channel. Dian Mega Savitri said, bagaimana perkembangan human trafficking di Belgia? Sejauh mana pemerintah setempat care dengan kasus-kasus perdagangan manusia?
Yeah, the question from Dian Mega Savitri. She asked about human trafficking in Belgium and how far the government here handle the human trafficking in Belgium. Is that any enforcement from the local authority here in order to is the case of human trafficking?
Okay, thank you for the question. So here in Belgium, what happens is that human trafficking is severely prohibited. So if you are trafficking someone, you are going to be charged with it and you're going to go to prison. It's really severely prohibited. Victims of human trafficking also get help here in Belgium. If you collaborate with the local authorities to prosecute your trafficker, you can get help. You can have safe houses. If you're a migrant, you can even get a visa to stay in Belgium and to be able to restart your life here. And yes, human trafficking is being tackled in Belgium. Not enough, according to me. I believe there's always progress that can be done. But the thing with human trafficking is that it's always happening in the background. No, it's never really visible. It's always hidden. And so for opportunities to exist, to be able to prosecute human trafficking, usually we need a victim who has escaped the trafficker and who's willing to testify, to speak up, and to prosecute. Usually, if the victim is not doing, if there's no victim, it's hard for the law to actually prosecute someone if we don't have someone who can testify against them.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, back to you, Rifa.
okay. The next question from Detars. Korban-korban kasus trafficking biasanya kebanyakan dari negara mana saja?
From which country most of human trafficking victims are?
Wow, that's a really broad question. I don't have all the numbers of the world, sadly. I'm not an expert in that field. I know, like I said, that Asia has 2/3 of human trafficking. 2/3 of the victims of human trafficking come from Asia. But I also know that there's a lot of human trafficking in Africa. There's a lot of human trafficking in the US. There's a lot of human trafficking in Europe. It's everywhere. But I believe that culture, maybe, and also just a way of living makes Asian more vulnerable than others.
Okay.
Jadi dari penjelasan Laura tadi kebanyakan dari negara-negara Asia ya, korban-korban dari perdagangan manusia ini.
Okay. I've read about that one. The article said that the highest case of human trafficking in Asia happened in Thailand and also Bangladesh. Is that true? And what do you think about that statement, Laura?
So I've heard the same numbers, well, not the numbers, but I've heard the same facts about Thailand and Cambodia. I don't know about Bangladesh. I have no information on that, but I know that A21, the NGO with whom I'm partnering with, they are really active in Thailand and Cambodia, just because those are the two countries they have agreements with, but also the two countries who represent the highest numbers of human trafficking. And so that's what I know. I don't know about Bangladesh, but it's probably true, mostly true. I know that India, Bangladesh, Pakistan have a lot of human trafficking up there too.
Okay, so that is true, right? But is that proving that the Thailand people or Thailand itself is the sexy countries, is the sexy market of the human trafficking?
Well, I cannot say that it's the sexiest country with the most amount of sexual exploitation. I have no authority to declare that. I just know that it's a fact. There's a lot of sexual exploitation up there. There's a lot of red districts. There's a lot of young girls, young boys, children, men and women who are being sold for sexual favors. I know there's a lot of tourists who come from Western countries or from other countries for that purpose, knowing that they'll have that service in Thailand. That's a fact. But I don't know if I can declare that Thailand is the sexiest country. I don't know. But it is a fact, and it's a sad, sad reality that needs to be changed.
Okay, well, Kak Ros, and Miss Laura, I want to say hi to our friends from Belgium who has joined us on YouTube channel Smartfm Makassar, Laetitia Joseph. She helped us to answer the question which came from our friends, our netizen. Okay. Oh, that's a part of you. Okay. She said there has been cases being exposed in Belgium, and governments are taking steps against the human trafficking itself. She said
yes,
that.
It's true. Yes.
Okay.
Letitia and Guy are with me on the Walk for Freedom team in Brussels. So we are working together to raise awareness about human trafficking in Belgium and mostly in Brussels. And as we did the Global Freedom Summit a few weeks ago, we talked about what has happened in Europe, but mostly in Brussels the last few years. And we read some numbers that actions are being taken care of. The last few months, in May and June, I think there were arrests being made and prosecution being made for traffickers in Belgium. I think there was a case of 13 people being arrested in May and 18 people being arrested in June 2020. So that's only a few months ago. COVID is not stopping the Belgium law enforcement to prevent human trafficking. It is making it harder, but it doesn't mean it's not being done. And like I just said, those two numbers are encouragement. And this is just hope that we can do it and that a lot of other traffickers must be stopped.
I have a question though. For Belgium, mostly in Brussels, is there any decrease of the number of the cases from human trafficking after the authority take control or try to decrease the number of the cases?
That's a good question. Like I said, those two numbers I just gave were from May and June 2020, so that's only a few months ago. I don't think we have any setback, and we don't have enough time that has passed to know if there's already a change. What I do know is that those are the two we got, but it doesn't mean they were the only ones. There's many more, and usually when you arrest the leaders, someone else is going to step up to take their place. You know, it's really lucrative. It's one of the, it's the highest, it's the fastest, most growing criminal activity in the world. Just because drugs, you can sell them once. Men, women, and children, you can sell them over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so if someone is not making profit on it, someone else is going to take the spot. And so that's why we have to prevent others to fall into human trafficking and then tackle along to free all the ones who are enslaved.
And speaking about the leaders, in your experience that you internship with the partnership with A21, is there any those who are still even in authority as a person who do, and they engage with the crime, but they are also part of the leadership in the country? I will not mention which country, but is there any case like that?
So do you mean a case where someone would be prosecuted for being the one in charge, and then someone who would have helped him doing that activity but not being the boss would have been prosecuted too? Is that the question?
Yes.
Well, the answer is yes, of course. Anyone who's linked to human trafficking can be prosecuted. It's not because you're not the boss that you're not part of the problem. If you're the one who are bringing the girls from point 1 to point 2, but you're not the boss, it still means that you are helping them being trafficked. If you're the one giving them drugs, you are helping them being trafficked. If you're the one who are taking their passports away, you're being the one helping them being trafficked. So of course there's I think different kind of levels of how far you can be prosecuted if you're the head of the criminal activity or if you're part of it. But anyone who's linked to that can be prosecuted, and A21 has brought a lot of justice in that field, has prosecuted several traffickers and their organization in different countries. And what is really interesting to see is that some countries decide to multiply the sentence based on how many victims they made. And so one person can be charged for, let's say, 20 years, but there were 20 people. You do 20 times 20, and that's a lot of years behind the bars. And so it's interesting also to see how every country has a different system to prosecute, and a different, the penalties will be different from country to country.
Okay, well.
But is there any people who are running important position in the government or the elite, but then they engage with the crime? Through your experience over the times, do you find something like that?
That might be. Well, I wouldn't be surprised, like there's bad in many people. And like I said, traffickers can take different shapes, different forms. We have women who are the traffickers, and you would be like, how can a woman do that to another fellow woman if she doesn't want that to happen to her? Well, it exists. Traffickers are not only men, it can also be women. So I don't know about high placed people. I don't have names, I don't have gossip on that. I have no idea. I'm not infiltrated in something, I don't know. But it is possible. Anything is possible. And I hope that if it's the case, justice will be brought to those people too, and that there will be no immunities. It's not because you're high placed that you cannot be prosecuted for those crimes.
Okay. All right. Our topic tonight, being a modern day warrior, the fight against human trafficking. There are so many questions here di YouTube channel Smartfm Makassar. Saya akan membacakannya satu-satu. I will read in bahasa. Seperti sebelumnya, nanti akan disimpulkan tentunya oleh Kak Ros yang masih terhubung bersama kita dari Belgia. Masih semangat Kak Ros ya? Masih semangat dong. Ini kita sudah sampai di sesi yang terakhir nih Kak. Kebanyakan pertanyaan yang masuk di YouTube channel itu adalah menarik ke Indonesia. Yang pertama saya bacakan dulu, Ali Makassar, apakah ada korban yang berasal dari Indonesia? Kemudian juga berdasarkan pengalaman, ini pertanyaan dari Nesti May. Berdasarkan pengalaman, bagaimana sih sarannya untuk orang-orang Indonesia agar kita tidak tertipu dan ujung-ujungnya terjerumus menjadi korban perdagangan manusia atau human trafficking ke luar negeri. So there's one question, last question maybe from my friend from BPEC Squad.
Okay.
Said, please.
Thank you for the chance for given to me. My question is, can you give seems like a tip and trick we avoid from this problem about human traffic, and then how we save the victim of human traffic? Thank you.
Okay, how to save the victim of human trafficking, to free them from the human trafficking itself, maybe like that. So the last question from Marian Bondesen. How much and how far anti-human trafficking have been doing to stop human trafficking by spreading teaching awareness at countries of victims? Is there a cope with the government to spread awareness? Apakah ada kerjasama mungkin dengan pemerintah seperti itu untuk menyebarkan kesadaran bagaimana bisa kita terhindar dari human trafficking? Itu Kak Ros, silakan. The time is yours.
Okay. Yeah, the two questions I will try to translate for you. It's from Ali Makassar. Is there any victims from Indonesia? I think you have already explained it, but you can explain more. And then the second from Nesti May. Based on your own experience, what is your advice for Indonesians so they will not fall into the trick and then become the victims of human trafficking, especially that they will be sell out to other country abroad? And then the next is in English, so I think that you can continue on.
Okay, so many questions. Thank you so much for your interest, for the good questions that you're asking, and I just want to thank you because I feel like you're passionate and you want to take action, and that's the whole point of this interview. And so thank you so much for your interest and for listening carefully. So about Indonesia, I'm gonna answer that question first. Yes, there is human trafficking in Indonesia too. I mentioned a little before that over the last 10 years, about 450 victims were detected in Indonesia as victims of human trafficking. I know there is human trafficking in Indonesia. I don't have more information on that. I'm so sorry. I don't have any numbers from Asia, but I know that if you want to have more information on that, you can always go on the internet and maybe find a local organization who is fighting against human trafficking, because I believe there are people fighting against human trafficking also in Indonesia, and they will have better information because they're from there. The second question was about advice. Yes, we can do something about this. It's not because there's 40 million people who are enslaved that we cannot do anything about this. There can be action that can be taken. The first one that is, I think, the most important one for everyone is to raise awareness. Educate yourself on the topic. Educate your family on the topic. Educate your kids. Please educate your kids on this topic. It is really important. The second one is if you are a frontline worker, if you are a policeman, a border control officer, if you are a judge, if you are a doctor, read the signs, get training in that field, be able to identify what are the signs of human trafficking, what are the signs of vulnerability, what are the signs of the lesions. If you're a doctor and you can see some things on the body, that can be signs, and you have to report it. The third part is really to speak up. If you suspect anything, please speak up. You might be the only hope. And you might be the only person who actually sees them. A21, so the NGO I've been working with, is doing a campaign called Can You See Me? And they're giving little videos of case scenarios where there is human trafficking and where people just don't see the human trafficking. And so you're called to be aware, you're called to open your eyes and speak up if you see anything. Someone asked me about the numbers. So like I said, there's 40 million people over 40 million people who are actually still enslaved today. That's more than when it was legal or acceptable in the Asian and Greek, Roman and Greek period. That's insane. And we are in 2020 and there's still so many people enslaved. And there's only 1% of them that get freed. But this can be changed, if we take action together, if we speak up, I know about it, now I'm talking to you, that's already so many people who hear about it. If everyone speaks about it to one person, we can have a ripple effect and we can tackle that problem and make that 1%, maybe 10%, and then with time 50%, and then with time eradicate it completely. I believe we can do something about it, but it has to be a team effort. It has to be something where everyone is like, whoa, this needs to be changed, and we have to take actions all together.
Yeah, speaking about the sign, how we as a common people, how we identify somebody who is actually the victims of human trafficking, beside the physical signs that we can easily see, but like women in a brothel, we don't know that, because some people, they think that these women, they enjoy, but it's totally not, because they are the victims. So how can we identify that? Looking around us, our neighbors or our environment?
Mm-hmm. That's a very, very good question. It's also a tricky question because, like I said, human trafficking takes different shapes and forms. It is different in every country. It's different with every victim. I think the first thing we have to be aware of is looking for signs of vulnerability and signs of slavery, because it is slavery. Their freedom is taken away. So if you can see that someone is in despair, is agitated, or on the contrary, is really like not shy, but like taken into, like, that they're scared, or that they're showing signs of being scared or submissive under the authority of someone else, if you can see that they're never alone, that they need to be displaced from one place to another with someone else, I think those are signs. But again, it is really delicate. You don't want to misinterpret signs that are not there too. And that's also why I was saying that one of the main solution is to train the frontline workers, to train policemen, to train border control officers, to train the people who will be called in the front lines to see and identify is this human trafficking or not.
Well,
so once you identify the victims, can immediately go to the, for example, police, or we just go to the organization which take care of the victims from human trafficking.
Okay. Well, Kak Ros and Miss Laura, I'm so sorry. This talk is very interesting, but this is the end of our program. This is the end of our session. But I'm so sad. we can still continue this conversation after we close this program, but because this is the end of our session, could you please give the closing statement or maybe conclusion of our topic tonight to raise awareness also to smart listener and Makassar people?
Yes. Well, smart listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for being so interested. Thank you for asking so many good questions and wanting to be part of this fight. I invite you to be a modern day warrior, to join the fight against human trafficking, raise awareness around you. If you want to have more information, go on a21.org. It's the NGO I've been working with. They have so much information for you about human trafficking. Feel free to contact them if you have questions too. And I invite you to speak up, educate your family, educate your friends, and feel free to report something. If you see something, speak up, because you might have been the only one who saw them.
Okay, well, Kak Laura, mungkin punya sesuatu untuk disampaikan to end our session tonight?
Okay, maybe you mean it's me, Rose.
Oh ya, Kak Rose.
Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Kak Rose, yes, I mean Kak Rose.
Saya ngerti, nggak apa-apa.
I'm sorry, Kak Rose.
Laura, no, it's okay. Laura already have given the statement. I just say, I just want to encourage. Saya hanya ingin buat smart listener sehabis mendengarkan program ini, tolong kita jadikan telinga kita ini benar-benar telinga seorang pendengar, dan mata kita ini menjadi mata yang benar-benar melihat sekeliling kita dan benar-benar peduli dengan kasus-kasus perdagangan manusia ini, karena mereka yang benar-benar rapuh ya, bukan cuma dalam masalah ekonomi mereka rapuh, tapi juga bisa jadi anak-anak dari keluarga yang kaya raya, mereka punya bentrok di rumah, kemudian mereka melarikan diri dan mereka menjadi korban human trafficking, perdagangan manusia. Mereka itu membutuhkan pertolongan kita. Jadi kalau bisa tolong kita bisa menjadi suara buat mereka, apa saja yang bisa kita lakukan untuk menolong mereka, mungkin menjadi bagian dari organisasi yang mengurus hal-hal ini, atau juga kalau kita melihat ada kasus yang mencurigakan, kita bisa langsung laporkan mungkin ke organisasi yang menangani masalah ini atau ke polisi. Pokoknya kita waspada dan benar-benar sadar bahwa ini masalah serius, dan orang-orang ini, anak-anak kecil mulai dari anak bayi, anak balita, remaja, mereka jadi korban dan setiap hari itu masih terus terjadi. Mari kita sebagai masyarakat, community, kita bersatu bersama melawan perdagangan manusia zaman modern ini.
Okay, baik. Thank you so much Kak Rose, and also thank you so much for Laura yang sudah membagikan cerita dan juga pengalamannya to smart listener malam hari ini. Dan itu dia tadi, semoga kita bisa mengambil kesimpulan dan juga inspirasi untuk speak up gitu, menyadari bahwa human trafficking ini terjadi dalam lingkungan kita sehari-hari. Terima kasih juga untuk teman-teman saya dari BPIC Makassar. Thank you so much and we'll see you again next week. Terima kasih Kak Ros dan juga Laura. See you.